Well, it's a question of the biter being bit, isn't it? Or the other way around, perhaps. It's an interesting academic argument, because on any view, biting would amount to a panoply of offences within the criminal calendar. Minor, perhaps, but even all the way to ABH. The victim of it has made it quite clear he doesn't want to bring any charges, and I can well understand that. But that wouldn't stop the prosecution, should it choose, to go ahead. They don't actually need the complainant to say or do anything. The pictures speak for themselves, as does the action. And it was witnessed all over the world, televisually, and by those in the stadium, except, of course, the referee. But what's new there? I think, in theory, it could happen. I think it won't. But, of course, the sanction for Suarez is a very large fine now. Inevitably, for me, will be a suspension of between 5 and 8 games. It's very difficult because there's no real precedent in British football for biting, and he doesn't come to the table as a man with an impeccable record, not just biting, but of course the Patrice Evra incident, and recently in an international game there's allegation that he punched an opponent. So his character goes before him, and I would imagine he'd be dealt with severely. But more importantly in all of this, I think, is the decision made by Liverpool Football Club to deal with this by way of a fine. Now, clearly these are different issues, but if one considers for one moment Eric Cantona and his flying kick into the crowd, severely provoked, whatever the rights and wrongs of it. But Manchester United didn't just fine him, they suspended him themselves. They didn't wait for the FA. Liverpool have made the decision purely to fine Luis Suarez. And one might wonder why, if they were treating it with the seriousness that they claim, they didn't wish or seek to actually ban him themselves, which would have been open to them. But of course it would be against their interest. And this is the problem in football, with clubs policing their own players, because of course they don't want to damage their own prospects of success. And pragmatism takes a hold, as it does in all sport, and that's why it's a huge consideration for what takes place legally or not. And I think that given how Liverpool, rightly in my view, were criticised for the extraordinary support they gave to Luis Suarez in the Patrice Evra case, have stepped in now to fine him, but have taken no further action than that. And I wonder whether or not, in all the circumstances, they perhaps should have done more, and rather than wait for the PFA to suggest anger management, that Liverpool could have been much more hands-on with all of this, because their brand has been harmed. Make no mistake, Liverpool Football Club is a great football institution in this country, and I don't want to upset anyone, but they haven't won the league in living memory, notwithstanding that they've won their success has been unparalleled for so many years. But notwithstanding that, as a brand, they are one of the half-dozen great global football brands in the world. And their brand has been damaged by the antics of Luis Suarez in the Chelsea match. And for me, I think they could have done more. They could have been more hands-on, and they could have led the charge in dealing with the matter, rather than issuing some pretty uneventful comments to the media, platitudes, if nothing else, and dealing with it by way of a very substantial fine. But when a man earns as much money as that, and then, of course, he can put a spin on it by donating that fine to the survivors of Hillsborough, one might ask, well, he could have done that anyway if he was so minded, and he didn't need to wait to be fined a couple of £100,000 to do so.